On November 24, 1971, a Northwest Orient Airlines aircraft departed Portland bound for Seattle. Carrying 36 passengers and 6 crew members, on which should have been a simple 30-minute journey. Among the travelers was a man who would become one of the most notorious hijackers in American history. This individual appeared completely normal, like just another business traveler with his suit. He looked to be in his mid-40s and deliberately selected seat 18E at the rear of the aircraft. After taking off, he walked up to flight attendant Florence Schaffner and introduced himself as Dan Cooper, handing her a piece of folded paper. The 23-year-old attendant didn't read the paper and just slipped it into her pocket without looking. Cooper firmly insisted she read the message right away, mentioning he had dangerous materials with him. The note contained a terrifying demand, written in neat penmanship. "Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and I want you to sit by me." Though Schaffner complied, she remained skeptical until Cooper opened his briefcase. Inside were red cylindrical objects, electrical wires, and a large battery pack. The explosive device appeared genuine and threatening. Cooper then outlined his specific requirements. He demanded exactly $200,000 in cash delivered by 5 p.m. He also wanted 4 parachutes delivered to the aircraft. Once on the ground, he expected the plane to be refueled and prepared for immediate takeoff. He made it clear that any attempt to trick him would result in detonating his bomb. The remaining passengers stayed completely unaware of the unfolding crisis. Schaffner discreetly alerted the cockpit crew while fellow attendant Tim Mucklow took over monitoring Cooper. The flight crew immediately contacted air traffic control, and word rapidly reached airline president Donald Narab. He made the remarkable decision to meet all of Cooper's demands without resistance. After consulting with FBI agents, Narab arranged for a Seattle bank to supply the requested funds. The bank maintained special emergency cash reserves specifically for such situations. These particular bills carried distinctive serial numbers that would prove crucial later. Narab prioritized cooperation over resistance to safeguard his airline's public image. The scheduled flight duration was merely 30 minutes, but gathering the ransom money required several hours. The pilots received instructions to maintain a holding pattern around Seattle until preparations were complete. They informed passengers about supposed mechanical difficulties to justify the extended delay. The worried but trusting travelers accepted this reasonable explanation. The brief half-hour flight extended to over 3 hours before finally touching down at Seattle Airport at 5:46 p.m. Following Cooper's precise instructions, the aircraft parked at a remote location far from the busy terminal. An airline official approached carrying the money bag and requested parachutes. After confirming receipt of the $200,000 and all 4 parachutes, Cooper allowed every passenger and crew member to leave, except Tina Mucklow. Ground crews refueled the plane as agreed. The aircraft departed once more, carrying only the flight crew, Cooper and Tina. Cooper provided detailed flight parameters: proceed toward Mexico City at exactly 10,000 feet elevation, maintain wing flaps at 15 degrees, and fly at minimum possible speed. The pilots explained that these unusual settings would make reaching Mexico City impossible due to insufficient fuel capacity. Cooper instructed them to follow his orders regardless. Cooper directed Tina to enter the cockpit and secure the door behind her. Alone in the main cabin, he strapped on his parachute gear and prepared for what would become the most audacious escape attempt in aviation history. Moments later, a warning indicator illuminated in the cockpit. The aft stairs had been deployed. Boeing 727 aircraft possessed a unique design feature during that era: retractable stairs that could extend from the plane's tail section during flight. Cooper deployed the rear stairs and leaped into the harsh weather conditions, taking both his parachute equipment and the cash with him. The cockpit crew and Tina Mucklow had no visual contact with the passenger cabin. Aircraft cockpit doors lacked viewing windows during that time period. However, at exactly 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a distinct upward movement of the aircraft's rear section. The pilots quickly made control adjustments to maintain stable flight. The aircraft proceeded to its destination in Reno, Nevada, completing a safe landing. Law enforcement officers immediately boarded and conducted a comprehensive search, but discovered no trace of Cooper anywhere on the plane. Crime scene investigators uncovered limited evidence. They recovered Cooper's business tie along with its metal clip still fastened. Shredded parachute fabric was found throughout the cabin area. Cooper had also abandoned several cigarette butts he had consumed during the hijacking. Airline smoking was completely permitted in 1971. A detailed forensic examination revealed 66 unidentified fingerprints that matched neither crew members nor any registered passengers. The briefcase containing the explosive device, the cash bag, and all parachute equipment had disappeared completely with Cooper. Federal investigators opened their inquiry that very evening. They pursued Cooper relentlessly for 45 years, until officially declaring the case closed in 2016. Countless questions still lack answers today. This aviation crime remains the sole unsolved hijacking case in United States history. It has become one of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's most baffling cold cases. Critical questions endure. What was Cooper's true identity? What occurred after his dramatic jump? Did authorities ever locate the stolen money? The puzzle continues confounding law enforcement experts. Two remarkable elements make this hijacking particularly unique. Initially, every other passenger remained completely unaware that their flight had been commandeered. Nobody suffered death or injury throughout the entire ordeal. Most experts recognize Tina Mucklow as the genuine hero of these events. She maintained Cooper's composure during the crisis, facilitated meeting his requirements, and avoided any chaos that might have resulted in casualties. Co-pilot Ratajak offered high praise for her actions afterward. She remained incredibly composed and professional throughout the situation. I cannot imagine anyone better suited to handle such a dangerous criminal encounter. The second fascinating detail concerns the widely recognized name itself. The actual hijacker identified himself as Dan Cooper, never DB Cooper. So how did Dan transform into DB? A television reporter named James Long created this error. He was racing against his broadcast deadline while interviewing police contacts. Officers correctly told him the suspect's name was Dan Cooper, but Long mistakenly heard DB Cooper instead. Long broadcast the incorrect name in his evening news segment. Fellow reporters adopted this version and published it across newspapers and television stations nationwide. The erroneous name became permanently established. This confusion illustrates a mental phenomenon known as cognitive anchoring. Individuals typically place excessive trust in the initial information they receive about any subject. In 2013, scientists identified Brandolini's law, alternatively called the bullshit asymmetric principle. It describes how disproving misinformation demands significantly more energy than originally creating it. Put simply, incorrect information spreads rapidly, but persuading people to accept corrections requires substantially more effort. Regarding Cooper's situation, this mistake carried little consequence. Only his name was inaccurate. After all, a hijacker would likely avoid using his genuine identity anyway. Federal investigators determined that Cooper had secured the money bag directly to his body prior to his escape. The stolen cash weighed approximately 10 kilograms or 22 pounds. He equipped himself with dual parachutes, one positioned across his chest and another fastened to his back. Authorities identified the general location of Cooper's leap. He jumped somewhere over southwestern Washington state, an area dominated by thick evergreen forests, numerous deep lakes, and rugged canyon terrain. Dangerous wildlife, including wild bears, inhabited the wilderness. The leap occurred at 10,000 feet elevation in total blackness around 8 p.m. Cooper jumped wearing completely unsuitable attire, only a standard business suit and leather dress shoes. Heavy rainfall was occurring and dense storm clouds at 5,000 feet eliminated all visibility during his descent. Airspeed presented an additional serious hazard. Cooper exited the aircraft while traveling at approximately 320 kilometers per hour, or 200 miles per hour. November weather in that geographic area becomes extremely cold. Had Cooper splashed down in any lake, deadly hypothermia would have begun within moments. Once Cooper's hijacking dominated newspaper headlines, imitator criminals started employing nearly identical methods. At least 5 individuals executed similar hijackings, and every single one lived through their parachute descents. Martin McNally performed one such copycat operation on June 24, 1972. He replicated Cooper's precise techniques, demanding $500,000 before parachuting away. McNally jumped at velocities reaching 400 to 500 kilometers per hour, double Cooper's jumping speed. He survived using merely a reserve parachute. Richard LaPointe staged another imitation hijacking during January 1972. He dressed in comparable business attire, jumped during winter weather, and touched down safely in deep snow. Both McNally and LaPointe eventually faced arrest by authorities, which explains how we learn their complete stories. However, their successful escapes forced the FBI to reconsider Cooper's possible survival. If these criminals could endure jumps under more dangerous conditions than Cooper encountered, perhaps Cooper had also lived through his leap. Additional evidence suggested Cooper possessed genuine expertise. Tina Mucklow offered to explain the parachute operation procedures to him, but Cooper refused her assistance. He claimed he already understood how to operate them correctly. This specialized knowledge provided Cooper with a crucial advantage over the amateur copycat hijackers. The FBI completely changed their investigation strategy. Rather than hunting for a corpse, they started pursuing a living criminal. Law enforcement had begun searching the wilderness areas the morning after the hijacking occurred. They looked for Cooper's remains, fragments of damaged parachute material, or any $20 bills he might have used for purchases. The stolen money Cooper took carried distinctive identification marks. The bank had supplied him with precisely 10,000 $20 bills, totaling exactly $200,000. Banking personnel had meticulously documented every serial number before releasing the cash. The FBI shared these serial numbers with financial institutions and gambling establishments throughout the nation. Anyone who encountered bills bearing those numbers received instructions to notify the FBI without delay. Locating Cooper became extraordinarily challenging due to numerous uncertain variables. Investigators could not establish the exact search zone without determining the airplane's exact coordinates, when Cooper departed, or which direction air currents transported the parachute during descent. Using their most accurate estimates, investigators concluded that Cooper had touched down somewhere in the vicinity of Lake Merwin in Washington state. The FBI performed a realistic experiment to gain better insight into Cooper's probable landing location. They utilized an identical aircraft with matching flight configurations and released a 91-kilogram weighted sled through the rear stairway. The spot where this test sled landed helped authorities reduce the size of their search area for Cooper. This information prompted widespread house-to-house inquiries throughout the target region. Law enforcement personnel approached every rural home in the area, speaking with residents and collecting any relevant details. Search crews launched boats across Lake Merwin and Lake Yale. One local business even donated their underwater vessel to assist in the mission, exploring 200 feet beneath Lake Merwin's surface. The search teams expected to locate the stolen money, torn parachute materials, or Cooper's remains, but their efforts yielded nothing. Authorities then printed the serial numbers of the stolen bills in area newspapers. They offered a $1,000 bounty to anyone who located a bill with matching serial numbers. This reward program continued for 3 years, but nobody found even one bill. 8 years elapsed following the hijacking incident. In 1979, Continental Airlines captain Tom Bohan reached out to the FBI with important details. During Cooper's escape night, Tom had been piloting a different aircraft only 4 minutes behind Cooper's flight and 4,000 feet above it. Tom recalled the brutal storm conditions that evening, calling it the most severe weather he had experienced throughout his entire aviation career. Tom suspected the FBI's estimates about Cooper's landing location were incorrect by 80 degrees. Having personally observed the weather conditions that night, he felt certain about Cooper's true landing spot. He recommended the FBI concentrate their efforts around the Washougal River watershed region. Several months afterward, Tom's hypothesis proved to be right. An 8-year-old child found multiple $20 bills beside the Columbia River shoreline. The currency remained bound together with elastic bands. Media outlets reported this as the first significant progress in America's sole unsolved aviation hijacking, with the youngster discovering $3,000 worth of damaged bills. Authorities quickly checked the serial numbers and verified these were identical bills provided to Cooper years before. Another search mission started around this location, but investigators could only retrieve $5,800 in total currency. Tom's forecast about Cooper landing close to the Washougal River was accurate, as the found money appeared downstream of that waterway. The FBI organized more searches hoping to locate Cooper's body or parachute pieces, but found nothing additional. FBI specialist Richard Tosaw determined that Cooper most likely drowned in the freezing river waters that evening. The 8-year-old discoverer kept some of the found bills as his reward. In 2008, the child who had discovered the money reached adulthood and chose to auction 15 of the retrieved bills online. These $20 notes earned him $37,000 because Cooper's story had achieved international recognition, making collectors eager to pay high prices for these rare historical items. This finding brought up another critical question. What was Cooper's real identity? What were his actual name and personal history? The FBI possessed very little physical evidence to solve this puzzle. Cooper had abandoned a necktie and tie clasp aboard the aircraft. The tie clasp was constructed of gold and held specific tiny particles that became vital evidence. In March 2009, a scientific team started examining these microscopic particles using cutting-edge equipment. The group included a fossil expert, a technical artist, and a metal specialist who employed electron microscopy to study the evidence. Their examination showed that sections of the tie clasp contained pure titanium, along with small amounts of aluminum and titanium antimony compound. These results indicated Cooper probably worked at a chemical processing plant, metal production facility, or aerospace engineering company. He could have even been employed at Boeing directly, since pure titanium was regularly used in airplane manufacturing plants during that era. Researchers determined that Cooper likely had connections to a company that built aircraft, possibly one linked to Boeing, much like the plane he escaped through. Throughout the investigation's opening year, the FBI conducted interviews with passengers and cabin crew to develop a visual representation of Cooper's features. The original sketch, finished by November 28, 1971, was rejected as inaccurate by flight attendant Schaefer and additional witnesses. A second artistic rendering required another full year to complete, but also failed to satisfy those who had seen Cooper. Eventually, on January 2, 1973, the FBI released their third and definitive sketch. Flight crew members approved this final version as correct, providing the public with its most reliable depiction of Dan Cooper's appearance and potential occupation. This major development inspired numerous individuals to formulate fresh theories regarding Cooper's true identity. Larry Carr, who directed the investigation unit between 2006 and 2009, suspected Cooper worked as an Air Force cargo handler. Cargo handlers received fundamental parachute instructions, mastering how to wear and activate parachutes, plus gaining knowledge about aircraft systems, including operating the rear stairway mechanism. Using witness accounts and physical evidence, the FBI assembled a roster of more than 800 possible suspects. Although any of these 800 individuals might have been D.B. Cooper, investigators focused intensively on 20 main suspects, with multiple candidates possessing especially compelling histories. Richard McCoy emerged as one significant suspect. This Vietnam War Army veteran commandeered an aircraft merely 5 months following Cooper's crime using strikingly comparable techniques. He chose a Boeing 727, requesting 4 parachutes and $500,000. Upon obtaining the cash, he deployed the rear stairs and leaped out. Nevertheless, the FBI tracked down and apprehended McCoy within just 2 days. He was sentenced to 45 years imprisonment, and investigators initially assumed he was Cooper conducting a repeat hijacking. During 1991, retired FBI agent Russell Kalim released D.B. Cooper, the real McCoy. The publication argued that McCoy's relatives identified Cooper's necktie and tie clasp as items that had belonged to McCoy. Yet McCoy avoided giving a direct answer about being D.B. Cooper, refusing to either confirm or deny the claim. Following 2 years behind bars, McCoy planned an escape attempt, which triggered a gunfight that caused his death. Although this evidence appears to resolve the puzzle, the situation involves additional complexities. Currently, the FBI does not formally regard McCoy as D.B. Cooper due to 2 critical factors. Initially, McCoy's physical characteristics failed to align with the authorized sketch of Cooper created using witness testimonies. Additionally, investigators subsequently discovered proof establishing McCoy's whereabouts on the night of Cooper's hijacking. He was present in Las Vegas and traveled back to his residence with his family the following morning, creating a solid alibi that eliminated him as a Cooper candidate. The second prominent suspect was Robert Rackstraw, also a Vietnam War veteran who faced numerous charges for fraud, aircraft theft, and explosive materials possession, although he usually avoided conviction. Television producer Thomas Colbert authored The Last Master Outlaw in 2016, seeking to demonstrate that Rackstraw was truly D.B. Cooper. Colbert developed a History Channel program titled D.B. Cooper, Case Closed, promoting the identical hypothesis. He worked alongside a group of 40 individuals, including multiple retired FBI agents, all persuaded that Rackstraw represented the genuine D.B. Cooper. What proof backed this assertion? Throughout the FBI's original investigation during the 1970s, Rackstraw ranked high among their suspect roster. During that period, Rackstraw made humorous remarks to journalists about potentially being the hijacker. Decades afterward, however, he completely rejected these statements. His face resembled the FBI drawings remarkably well. Despite this likeness, the FBI released him following 1979 and eliminated him as a suspect because of inadequate evidence. Television producer Colbert maintained that the FBI should have pursued investigating Rackstraw more intensively. Colbert released his new D.B. Cooper publication on July 11, 2016. The immediately following day, July 12, 2016, the FBI formally concluded the case. Rackstraw had reached 73 years old in 2016, and the accusations in Colbert's publication resulted in his employment termination. He passed away due to natural causes in 2019. Latest research in 2025 have revived hope in solving the D.B. Cooper mystery. FBI recently released 472 new pages and exploring new DNA leads. Private investigator Eric Eulis made a major discovery: a microscopic particle on Cooper's tie containing stainless steel and titanium. A parachute found in North Carolina in late 2024 is also under investigation. Eulis believes 2026 could be the year Cooper is finally identified. This returns us to our starting point. The D.B. Cooper puzzle stays unresolved currently. Nobody understands Cooper's actual identity, his personal history, or his final outcome after that decisive leap.